Calling to order the Sacramento Unified School District Board of Education meeting. We're going to start it off with Pledge of Allegiance. Superintendent. No, I don't know.
Please stand. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving to item 4.2. We're going to welcome our new student board member. And so I know that we have our student board member here, plus we also, there's a statement from someone else who wants to give a statement afterwards, but I will give what Ms. Vigil said. We are extremely proud that Blaze has been selected as the student board member for the 23-24 school year. Blaze is an outstanding student who represents the Wolverine ideal: dedication to high academic achievement, a commitment to ongoing personal growth, and a relentless pursuit of equitable treatment for all. Driven by a strong moral compass, they advocate for what is right to make their school community a safer, more welcoming place. Blaze is also artistically driven and creative, expressing themselves through a variety of activities, including music, spoken word. I speak for all of us here at Rosemont when I say that Blaze is the perfect choice for this important position. Round of applause for Blaze. And then, and very quickly, do we have, I know we had a statement, maybe if an audience member wanted to say something as well. So if you can come up and say a couple words before we see if there's any public comment. And then Blaze, could you come up as well?
Greetings, Board President Rhodes, board members, and Superintendent Aguilar. My name is Vanessa Reyes, Youth Services Specialist with Youth Development, and today I have the honor to introduce the newly selected student board member, Blaze McGee. Blaze is an incoming senior at Rosemont High School and has many hobbies that tend to be on the creative side of things. All in all, they are an artist of all kinds and especially enjoy writing and producing their own music, along with acting and theater. Blaze applied for this position because they believe in giving people a voice and speaking up. A lot of students have disagreements or suggestions when it comes to educational systems, but oftentimes don't know how to speak up about it. Blaze wants to be that spy on the inside. Come to me if you would like someone to bring this up, a true resource for students. She believes in getting involved and not backing down, especially when it comes to the well-being of their peers or teachers. Blaze is nervous, but very thrilled to be entering this position.
And quickly, Blaze, would you like to come and sit at the dais before you have to leave today?
Can I?
Yes. Come on up. Yeah. And then, quick question for you. Are you willing to read the broadcast statement today?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do it quickly.
Is it on?
And then, and very quickly, before we have our new student board member read the broadcast statement, is there any public comment? Is there any public comment around this topic?
There is not.
Board comment. Okay.
Let me not raise my
Yeah.
hand.
Yes. Member Pritchett.
I just want to say congratulations, and I'm so happy to have a fellow Rosemont Wolverine on board with us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And any other board members before? Okay. So with that being said, we're going to move to item 4.3, broadcast statement by our newest colleague.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being recorded and will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will be aired Sunday, June 25th at 9 a.m. and Monday, June 26th at 12 p.m. It is also webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net and can be viewed on Metro Cable's 14's YouTube channel. We welcome members of the audience to address the board. Please complete a speaker form which are located in the back of the room and give them to our communications representative, along with any handouts you may have for the board prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items that are not on the agenda. If you do comment on an item that is listed on the agenda, we will ask that you please defer your comments until your items come up on the agenda. Please also either turn off your cell phones or place them on silent mode.
Thank you so much. Now, we are going to have item 4.4, Stellar Student Introduction by Board Member Jean.
Good evening. So we are recognizing Taylor Sadler from Health Professionals High School. Taylor is a student at Health Professions High School and is an excellent example of modesty, courtesy, integrity, and perseverance. She is amazing. Taylor has received straight A's every semester she's been at Health Professionals, and no one will be surprised when she receives 6 more A's at the end of this year. She is one of our star students in that she is kind, cares deeply about others, and sets a positive tone and example on our campus every day that she is here. She will often ask, "How are you today?" to her teachers, staff, and peers, and is completely genuine when she asks. Taylor is a part of the Random Acts of Kindness Club with good reason, as she is the epitome of kind. She's our resident go-to when we need a tour guide with her warm and welcoming personality. She is also amazing, in all caps, at doing announcements for various activities or needs on the campus. And every time she announces anything, we are so proud of her professionalism and enthusiasm. We feel so lucky to have her on our campus. She is easily one of our best students. We appreciate her being with us each and every day, and we want her to know that through this nomination, she was an easy choice for this Stellar Student Award. HPHS loves you, Taylor. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything? Just push the button, I think. Oh, it's on. You're good.
Perfect. I would love to. Thank you, Ms. Tara, for reading that for me from my principal, Ms. Busio. And in honor of her, I would love to say thank you to my principal, but also to my parents, my friends, teachers, and staff at Health Professions. But most of all, I would love to thank you, the Sacramento City Unified School District, for opening and creating a school like my own, Arthur A. Benjamin Health Professions High School, for giving all and every single student a chance to go into the medical field. Thank you.
All right, I have a beautiful certificate for you, and I believe we're all going to come down and take a photo as well.
Okay.
Ron, would you like to join us for the photo? So welcome. So are you a junior or
I'll be a junior. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be a junior in the fall.
All right. Item 5.0, announcements of actions taken in closed session.
Good evening, President Rhodes. There are 7 announcements coming out of closed session this evening. First, the board approved 2 settlement agreements related to special education services, each by a vote of 4-0, with members Rhodes, Phillips, and Villa absent. The remaining announcements will be made by the superintendent.
I'm very pleased to announce that the board approved the following appointments this evening. Thank you, as part of closed session. The first one is by a vote of 4-0, with board members Rhodes, Phillips, and Villa absent. The board approved the appointment of Ms. Eleva Gibson as Assistant Superintendent, Early Learning and Care. Congratulations, Dr. Gibson. Additionally, by a vote of 4-0, with board members Rhodes, Phillips, and Villa absent, the board approved the appointment of Mr. Aaron Pedro de la Sol as Principal of Bowling Green, McCoy. Congratulations. By a vote of 4-0, with board members Rhodes and Phillips and Villa absent, the board also approved the appointment of Kirsten Spall as Principal of Capital City High School, or Capital City. And by a vote of 4-0, with board members Rhodes, Phillips, and Villa absent, the board approved the appointment of Dominic Campos as Principal of Mark Twain Elementary. Congratulations. Also, by a vote of 4-0, with board members Rhodes, Phillips, and Villa absent, the board approved the appointment of Mr. Heraclio Guevara as Principal of the Met. Congratulations, Mr. Guevara. And by a vote of 4-0, with board members Rhodes, Phillips, and Villa absent, the board also approved the appointment of Ms. Jacqueline Gardner as Executive Director, Student Support and Health Services. Congratulations, Ms. Gardner. I see Ms. Gardner in the back. Congratulations, Ms. Gardner.
Thank you, Superintendent. So, we'll do this. That's fine. So, congratulations to all of our new principals and people that have new positions. I have a question for you guys today. Would you like to come to the podium and say anything, those who are in attendance today? It's a big day. I'll count to 5, and after that, I'm going to go to the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. There you go. All right, we have one. All right, clap it up for him, guys. Floor is yours, sir.
Check, check. Thank you, Board. Thank you, Board President. Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar. And thank you to the community of Mark Twain for selecting me to be the next principal of this fine school. I hope to work as hard as I can, work as a team, and build what we can as best as we can for a very long time at this school. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to the challenges that come ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And once again, congratulations to everyone. Moving on to item 6.0. And before we adopt the agenda, I would like to propose a change to the agenda before we take the motion to adopt, to remove the SUSD SELPA local plan presentation because the CAC and SELPA have not been able to discuss the plan. And we want to postpone it tonight to bring it back for approval with greater community engagement. And so, once again, we're going to remove that because the CAC has not had the opportunity to actually go over to the plan, and we want to make sure that we have the proper community engagement before it comes to the board. With that, I will motion to remove that. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Do we have to do a roll call, Superintendent? No, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Moving on to 7.0, public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight?
We do. We have several speakers.
Okay.
First speaker this evening is going to be Jeremy Hartley, and that's followed by Juan Martinez, and Mr. Martinez is recognized for 8 minutes. 3 other speakers donated their time.
Okay, sounds good. How you doing, sir?
Hello, good. I am Jeremy Hartley. I am here to speak on behalf of the recently canceled online education program at Cap City. And I thought it appropriate to start with a letter from my son, who is a student in that program. He's in the 1st grade. It is safer and more fun! Exclamation point. Please keep it going! Exclamation point. Oscar, 7.5, 6/22/23. That's his perspective. My perspective is that this has been a really good program for him, for our family generally. I know a lot of other families feel the same way. He came into it in kindergarten during the pandemic, quickly learned to read, has learned all of his math skills. And because it's online, has become very savvy about dealing with other people in online Zoom settings, which as a parent who works from home, I know how hard it is to break through in a Zoom meeting. My son's great at it. He's 7.5. Which reminds me, I wanted to say that I wanted to applaud how polished all of your students are. All the people that are speaking here tonight have been very good. I wish I had their public speaking skills. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. So I think it's a bit of a shame that this program has been canceled, especially since from what I gather, it's sort of died a death of bureaucratic inertia. My understanding is that it was canceled because the accreditation lapsed with the end of the COVID emergency. And so far as I know, there's been no reference to like the performance of the students or cost issues or anything like that. It's just a simple case of like time ran out, and so we need to shut it down. So I would like to encourage you all, with the 1 second I have left, to please consider extending it. Please accredit whatever programs need to be accredited, because it's a great program. I know there are other parents who agree with me.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Juan Martinez, recognized for 8 minutes.
Welcome, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. Can I give you this, or is this part of my?
You can pass it here, and then she'll pass it around. Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, my name is Juan Martinez. I'm here today as a parent with 2 grave concerns regarding the teachers' incendiary actions, and the other, the district's policy in regards to the parents' rights in requesting a meeting with a teacher. I'd like to know how it's possible that a teacher can deliberately, flat out deny to meet with the parent when a meeting is requested. In those emails, you will find that I emailed Ms. Catherine Townsend from Rosemont High School in regards to my son's grade, because there were some discrepancies there. And, I just found it appalling in terms of how you're asking for an audit of a grade because you have concerns because there's some discrepancies between Google Classroom and Infinite Campus. And my son had a 91.6 in Infinite Campus, and yet somehow when it was transferred over from Google Classroom to Infinite Campus, it went from 91.6 to 86.6 grade. So I emailed the teacher saying that, hey, I got a concern, I'd like to audit the grades. And if you look at the emails, I can read them. I began with asking her, hey, I got a question. Let me find my notes here, 1 second here. Now, is it okay if I read the emails? Thank you. Ms. Townsend, this is Juan Martinez. Amir Martinez's father. Please reach out to me ASAP for a grade out of the class. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Juan Martinez. And this is on Wednesday, June 14th. at 12:32 p.m. She responds back the same day. All this is taking place the same day. She replies back at 12:40 p.m. Everything has transferred from Google Classroom into Infinite Campus correctly. I have not changed any grades. I don't know why the discrepancy, but all grades in both places match except for the final grade. I'll go there. I'll go through them again and retransmit to see where there was a lag in transferring and let you know, Townsend. So I replied back within a couple hours. You look at the timestamp there and it says, I appreciate the swift reply. Thank you for looking into it. Discrepancies from his records and conversation I had with him, something does not seem right. Again, I appreciate it and thank you for your time. Sincerely, Juan Martinez. She replies back, I can assure, this is at 2:57 p.m. Again, all the same days. I can assure you I am not deliberately keeping a grade from him. He did approach me as grades were transferring, and I did say, give it a minute and to refresh, but give me tomorrow and let me see what transfers again and what does not. Regards, Townsend. I reply, well, good evening, Ms. Townsend. I'm sure that is not the case. I'm happy to discuss this and other matters further. Just let me know when you're available for a meeting. Either way, I look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. Sincerely, Juan Martinez. She replies back, well, I assure you every grade I see has matched the Google Classroom grade. I am not a computer, so I do not appreciate the accusations. I input grades and I hit transfer button, so please refrain from any accusations. I then reply, Ms. Townsend, you will refrain from such rhetoric and you will be courteous and professional. Again, I'm requesting a meeting. Thank you, Juan Martinez. And then she replies, and I will graciously deny. I have done all that you have requested of me. I'm not a computer. I have rerun everything and reposted. As I have said, Google doesn't recognize 50% of Infinite Campus does, and you will refrain from accusing me of any discrepancies. I reply, Ms. Townsend, I have asked that you refrain from your rhetoric and be courteous and professional. I also asked for a meeting and have denied my request to your liking. I will remind you of one parent's rights, which you deliberately violating. Your behavior and actions are very alarming. Again, I'm requesting a meeting. I can meet anytime before 12 p.m. tomorrow and after 2:30 p.m. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you. She then replies, I have been more than accommodating to your demands. I have rechecked and re-uploaded the transfer grades. I have unlocked Google Classroom and resubmitting grades. As said before, the 50% rule doesn't transfer to IC. When put into IC, Amir's grade is an 86.6. I will not meet, and if a grade change happens, it will not be made by me. And she left it as that. And then I, by that point, stopped replying. But I want to make it clear that each time I was sending these emails to Ms. Townsend, I was CCing the principal. However, when she replied, she was taking her off the thread. So no C's were going back and forth, which to me is alarming actions. You know, if you're going back and forth with something, why would someone do that? Especially when someone's asking for a simple request, wondering why. As parents' rights, you have a right to question, and she should be able to answer that, or at the very least meet. So then she replies, and there was one, I'm missing a page, but in one of your emails there, I put a little bracket there where she mockingly, deliberately does her little Hines with the trying to be poetic. I don't have that, so I can't read that out loud, but you have it in front of you. Beyond disrespectful that a teacher can have the gall to say that to somebody. Now, here's the most alarming one. Then she says, oh, by the way, and then she sent this at like around 8:36 p.m. Oh, by the way, I've already reigned, rhetorically speaking. By the way, you are challenging a computer, not the teacher. A bunch of periods and commas, symbols, which to me, that's cussing. So, you know, I find that very alarming that she would curse, because everybody knows that when you do that in text, that's cursing. Remember, I did what you asked. Rechecked and reopened Google Classroom, rhetorically speaking. Again, and I didn't, by that point, I didn't bother replying anymore. So to me, I like to know what exactly is a policy when a parent request a meeting. If anybody can flat out just deny, then where's the accountability that teachers preach in the classroom? And you know, this is so embarrassing because I came here as a parent, but I will also say that I'm also a teacher here with this district. Technically, I'm her colleague in that she would treat me this way as a parent and as a colleague. Now, I can't speak for her, what's going on in her mind, but there's, a bunch of stuff that we talk about when it comes to anti-racist, SEL, anti-biases. I mean, I guess I can go on and go on, but if she's treating me this way, I can just imagine how she's treating students and other parents. But I can speak up, and I do speak up because I'm an advocate for parents and for any student who ever needs anything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Frida Nar, followed by Monica Harvey for 4 minutes.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me, or I'm coming to talk to you. I'm Frida Nar, a parent of a student through the Independent Study Program at Cap City. And I just wanted to first off say thank you to Jasjeet and for getting back to me regarding virtual school, the update. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you. I also wanted to say thank you to Superintendent Aguilar for listening to teachers, their opinion regarding the independent study. I'm grateful for that. But I just wanted to kind of reiterate from the last meeting that how much I feel that the program is very important, and that I hope that you all will strongly consider keeping it virtual for the students who need that aspect of the program. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, school board and superintendent. I'm a language, speech, and hearing specialist for this district. I've worked here for 29 years. I spoke at the May 18th school board meeting about changes that we need to make to attract and retain speech therapists. This district has 39 speech therapists, and looking at EdJoin today, there are still 30 openings for using Department 22 and 13 using CARES funding. So that's 43 openings. Here's how a conversation might go for a new hire. When do I start? Well, the kids start August 31st. You might start then, or you might start 3 days before that. Okay, when will I find out? Well, that's in negotiations. We don't know the answer. What will my salary be? Well, according to the 22-23 salary schedule, you'd start at $54,000 because you have a master's degree. However, that includes the 3 days at the start of the school year, and if we don't have those this year, if they're not negotiated, then we have to subtract 3 days of pay from your starting salary. The job description says provides services to improve communications of pupils with handicapping disorders. Isn't that term handicapping outdated? Well, the job description must be negotiated, and I don't know when that will occur. It also says attend SAT and EAS meetings. What are those? Yeah, I don't know that either. The job description is 47 years old. You just need to attend IEP meetings. Hey, but come work for us. So I would like to know what the process is to recruit and retain speech therapists. I would like to know when teachers and SLPs will have the 23-24 school year calendar. I would like to know when teachers and speech therapists will have a 23-24 school year salary schedule. And I would like to know when the language, speech, and hearing specialists will have an updated job description. I'm always available for negotiations. The language, speech, and hearing specialists and SCTA are always ready to meet for negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no more public comment.
Okay. Seeing that we have no more public comment. You, Superintendent?
Yeah, very quickly, President Rhodes, if I can just ask our CAO, Ms. Wright, just to provide a little bit of context on the issue of independent studies, especially because as the board remembers, we did bring a policy to the board, and I want to make sure that our community hears about this, as well as some follow-up communications that we are planning to provide to our community around this, just to provide greater clarity.
Sure. Earlier this spring, we brought back a policy about independent studies, and that independent studies policy was regarding our capital city independent studies policy, and it is around the policy to revise the policy back to pre-COVID policy. I think there is some confusion about independent studies, and it is about virtual learning. And so we will be sending out some communication about how students will be receiving their learning at Cap City. And so I just want to just kind of really clearly communicate that for TK and third grade, students will be receiving an opportunity for their learning in daily synchronous instruction by a credentialed teacher. And daily synchronous instruction is live instruction from live synchronous instruction, and that can be in a mode where they are receiving instruction via, it could be phone, it could be live in person, or it can be provided by Zoom instruction, and that is daily, and it's a requirement. So in grades 4 through 8, students will interact daily with the teacher or school staff and will receive synchronous instruction from a credentialed teacher at least once a week. And that's a minimum of at minimum once a week. And for students in grades 9 through 12, receive synchronous instruction at minimum once a week as well. But teachers can decide, and when they do their do the agreement for independent study, they may determine that a student may need more than once a week for synchronous instruction. So we will be communicating out with not only the community, but also with staff when they meet with the parents and sign the agreement and come to that agreement about how that synchronous instruction will be determined, how often synchronous instruction happens, but also in what format that synchronous instruction takes place, what that will look like. But a communication will be going out to the community as well as to staff what the format looks like. And again, independent study is different than virtual instruction. Virtual instruction really is about the students having all of their courses in virtual learning, and that format is really usually online courses. And so each course taking place online, whereas independent study is about the student independently doing most of their learning independently with that live interaction, either synchronously.
Okay, thank you so much. And just for very quick clarity, you're saying that the virtual option is not being taken away from Cap City.
Correct.
For they're saying that you're saying they're able to receive it in a different method. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And Tara Jean,
so let me paint a picture that's more clear. So synchronous instruction is synchronous or live instruction can be by phone, it can be in person, it could be on Zoom with the teacher, right? And that instruction is not like virtual instruction that happens. So for a kinder through third grade student, what they're normally used to having is teacher signs on with the student or the class from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock with a break for lunch or for recess. That's virtual learning. Whereas synchronous instruction now can take place for a period of maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then the teacher may do maybe an English language arts lesson. And maybe that may happen one day, whereas another day they may do a math lesson for 45 minutes to an hour with the group of students. And that may happen in synchronous instruction.
Thank you for the clarity. I understand now. I get it now.
Just the minute you said we're returning to pre-COVID, it finally clicked for me. Just the sense of independent study is a very different program than what we were doing in COVID, which was distance learning, which was mimicking school at a distance on Zoom, whereas independent study puts a lot more onus on students independently studying and then being supported by teachers through one-on-one or small group instruction, not necessarily synchronous learning or learning at a distance. And that's where the miscommunication is.
Right. And the parent mentioned earlier about the WASC accreditation. So Cap City has a WASC accreditation for independent studies, right? And that's what we're returning to. When we went into COVID, all of our students had to do remote instruction. And that demand for remote instruction allowed that flexibility for not only for all of our schools to do remote instruction, but also Cap City then began to doing like that virtual learning as well. And relax that so that they can allow them to do that.
Okay, thank you, and I look forward to more clear communication going out to our community and parents and staff around this topic because it seems to be a little muddled, and I appreciate our community having better clarity of what we're talking about. So thank you so much.
So if Cap City has it on their website with an explanation is currently, and then they've recently sent out a letter to their community on their intent to enroll.
Beautiful.
That clearly explains it as well.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8.1, employee organization reports. We have SCTA and 15 minutes.
Good evening. David Fisher, President of the Sacramento City Teachers Association. Tonight, as you all know, is the last regularly scheduled board meeting for the 22-23 school year. I, quite frankly, had hoped we'd be standing here celebrating a great agreement that was going to help recruit and retain teachers for our students and an amazing year that we had just completed. Instead, in many ways, it's been a big disappointment. Despite some positive changes, the basic dysfunction and problematic leadership continue unabated. I'm sure you remember the commitment to begin negotiations on or before December 1st, 2022, with the goal of reaching an agreement by June 30th, 2023. Under the superintendent, the district made itself available exactly 3 times in the entire year. 3 times. And it's not like during those meetings the district was prepared to bargain. The district last made itself available to meet May 11th, 6 weeks ago. What's going on? Why is that important? Surrounding districts have gotten considerable double digits, approaching 20% in some districts, that provide significant increases and are using those improved salaries to recruit and staff their own district while we just sit and do nothing. In the meantime, we also learned that from the position control report that we asked for from the superintendent many months ago was finally provided. As of March 16th, the district had 625 full-time equivalent vacancies, including 222 full-time equivalent vacancies among certificated staff. If you do the math, that's approximately 6,000 students without a regular teacher in the classroom. In Sac City, status quo. Status quo that has led to an 8-day strike 1 year ago, 222 vacancies, 6,000 students without a teacher in the classroom, bad faith bargaining, conflicts of interest. Using $25 million, for example, in community school grants to unlawfully supplant district spending, findings issued by the state concerning the district's refusal to provide services to students with disabilities as set forth in their IEPs, and as you just heard, unilaterally ending the virtual program. We requested that the district apply for a waiver for virtual learning last year. By the way, I didn't have time to dig it out, but one of the parents sent me a communication. It's ending. It's not going. What they have experienced is not offered anymore. So maybe sometimes they might Zoom in, but it's not been what's offered, and it's unilateral and evidently without any community input. And finally, the subcontracting of work to outside contractor continues. Clear violation of our agreement and in not the best interest of the students. The superintendent once again is trying to get approval for the blatant effort to violate our agreement by returning the special education outside contracts to the consent agenda. At the last meeting, the board directed the superintendent to work with SCTA to resolve the issue. Predictably, he did what he has consistently done throughout his 6 years as superintendent. He himself refused to meet and then sent a team that was not prepared or empowered to actually negotiate. They actually told us they aren't empowered. Accordingly, we respectfully request that the item be pulled from the consent agenda. All this while the district is in the best financial position in its history. There is no more time for excuses. Time has run out. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have SCIU in the building? Let's do this. TS, Teamsters, UPE. Okay. Moving on to item 8.2, District Advisory Committees. We have the CAC in the building. The District English Language Learner Committee in the building. Okay, Local Control and Accountability Plan Committee in the building. Student Advisory Council. BAAB. Okay. Moving on to item 9.1, Middle School Mathletes Award and Recognition. Ms. Hanson. Welcome. That was a long walk from back there, right?
I apologize for the delay. Our mathletes were in the bistro, and our Director of Professional Learning for Mathematics, Sciences, Physical Education, and EdTech, Michaela Fetzer, is here to introduce them.
Wonderful.
Want to get them oriented rather than...
Yeah, it's fine, totally fine.
Everyone come on up front, families, students.
Oh, this is amazing.
athlete coaches, come on up to the... No one knows faces, definitely. Welcome.
Hi, all. Superintendent and members of the board, good evening. My name is Michaela Fetzer, and as Erin Hansen said, I am Director of Professional Learning, and I get the joy of supporting mathematics. And actually, what I'd like to do tonight is to present to you Susie Craig, who has served as our math lead for quite some time, who had the joy and challenge, if you will, of bringing middle school mathletes back to action and helping bring Cerna staff into participating in such. So she's going to tell you a little bit about it. Definitely honor the students and the coaches, and we're hoping at the end that you all will step down and we can get a picture with everybody together.
That's beautiful. As long as you don't want us to do any competitions with these people.
It's okay, but we can bring it on for sure.
We're not going to compete against you guys.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Susie Craig. I'm here to recognize students and schools who participated in middle school mathletes this past school year. This is an important year for middle school mathletes because this year was the first time that we've held the middle school mathletes competitions since 2019. At the beginning of this school year, I got an email from Lonnie Martin, a math teacher at Sutter Middle School, who asked if we could please get the program back up and running and if I would be willing to lead it from the district office. So we reached out to our middle schools, and we were able to get 6 schools throughout the district to commit to having a mathletes team. And those schools are Albert Einstein, California, Fern-Bacon, Leonardo da Vinci, Sam Brannan, and Sutter. Teachers from each school took on the role of mathletes coach. They advertised at their site. They rallied groups of students. They met with their students regularly to practice math, either during lunch or after school. And they brought them to competitions here at the district office. We had 5 competitions this year where students from these 6 middle schools competed in 5 rounds of testing. Individual students represented their schools by competing against each other in the areas of arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. And the last round of testing was always a group test where the students got to work together to solve the final problem and earn the final 10 points for their team. We were very strict on the scoring. For example, if the answer was 100 degrees and they wrote 100, they got it incorrect. But even so, there were students at every competition who would get perfect scores on all of their tests. The Mathlete students always showed good sportsmanship, they celebrated each other's achievements, and they had fun. I look forward to continuing middle school Mathletes in our district, and I only hope that more schools and students will be involved in the future. The reason we're here today is to recognize our Mathlete students and to award some Amazon gift card prizes. All of the gift cards that I have for students are on behalf of the Vula Steinberg Memorial Scholarship Fund through Sacramento State. So we will begin by awarding $100 gift cards to students who earned the most points for their school throughout all 5 competitions. So we're going to start with Albert Einstein Middle School. Our top scorer was Tara Lee. From Cal Middle School, top scorer Asha Newman. From Fern-Bacon Middle School, top scorer, Shiwen Chen. From Leonardo da Vinci, top scorer, James Bird. From Sam Brannan Middle School, top scorer, Jackie Lee. Being accepted by Pam Phillips, the Mathletes coach, on behalf of Jackie, who's not here today. Math teacher and Mathletes coach. And our top scorer from Sutter Middle School, Daniel Kahn. Now I'd like to present the award to the students with the highest overall scores of all Mathletes who participated in competitions this year. We had about 60 students total participate in competitions, and these 2 students earned the highest scores for their grade level. So I have $200 for our highest scoring 7th grade student overall, Daniel Kahn from Sutter Middle School. And I have $200 for our highest scoring 8th grade student, Asha Newman from Cal Middle School. I hope that all of our middle school students here tonight continue to show a love of mathematics, problem solving, and teamwork. As you just witnessed, there were certainly moments for individual students to shine in our Mathletes competitions, but really, Mathletes is a team sport. Schools win competitions through team preparation, strategically assigning students to tests, and by working together to solve the final problem on the group test. After each competition, we award school teams first, second, and third place based on their standing for that day. But today, I'm going to award school teams who placed first, second, and third overall for the whole year. Our 3rd place winner, Leonardo da Vinci, coached by Brandy Sidley and Dave Celeste. They're not here. They couldn't be here today. Our 2nd place overall winner, California Middle School, coached by Kevin Tao and Dimitri Volosha. Dimitri is here.
An honor, for sure. Congrats.
And our 1st place overall winner, Sutter Middle School, coached by Lonnie Martin. So finally, I'd like to thank our Mathletes coaches for encouraging students to join the team and giving them the opportunity to compete. I'd like to thank our parents for driving students to and from competitions after school, and our small group of parent volunteers who scored tests at every competition. I'd like to thank our students for working hard, encouraging each other, and staying positive. I appreciate you all joining us tonight, and thank you board members and community members for taking the time to celebrate our students.
We invite board members.
Yes, we'll come right down. And then also, is there any public comment on this?
There is not.
Okay, thank you. Let's know.
Back in the day.
Thank you so much, everyone.
No, we haven't. Yeah, I think because I don't think so. Okay. Okay. Going to item 10.2, resolution number 3327, easement, Ethel Phillips Elementary School. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna move into approval, the action. Quickly.
Can I ask, Ms. Ramos, though, can you just give a very quick description? I know that we included all of the information, but if you could just give a very quick overview of what this item entails. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Browning.
Excuse my delay, board members, superintendent. I'm here in accordance with Education Code Article 15. We are required to allow the public the opportunity to comment anytime the district intends to grant an easement or dedicate real property to another public entity. In this case, we're talking about a public sidewalk easement for the city of Sacramento at Ethel Phillips Elementary located at 2930 21st Avenue here in Sacramento, which is where the city will be making the needed public safety sidewalk improvements. At this time, we would like to hold a public hearing and receive any public comments on this item. This is not a board action item. The resolution will be voted on later tonight during the consent agenda.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any public comment around this topic?
We do not.
Okay. Any board comment around this topic? Seeing that there is none, thank you. Moving on to item 11.1, approval of the 2023-24 Local Control and Accountability Plan adoption. Welcome.
If I can just mention very quickly, President Rhodes, board members, starting with the presentation by Ms. Thomas, we are basically moving into board budget adoption over the course of the next few items. So just want to make sure that the board is following the sequence for 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3, which all have to be presented to you in this sequence.
Thank you, Superintendent. The floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, Board President Rose, Superintendent Aguilar, and board members. I'm Crystal Thomas, the Executive Director of LCAP. Today, I'm hoping to gain your approval for our draft LCAP with the understanding that revisions will need to be made. This includes adding recommendations from our educational partners without budgetary implications. This is imperative to rebuilding trust with our community. Next slide, Danielle. Okay. As we consider our core value and guiding principle, we now have our district strategic plan through our draft LCAP that will emerge as a living, breathing document. Therefore, we will need to engage in some level of revision throughout the year. Please expect revisions as we adopt our continuous improvement model that requires us to constantly examine and re-examine our actions for effectiveness against student outcomes. Next slide, Danielle. I don't know why this isn't looking. Embedded within our draft LCAP are our five strategic priorities, which serve as an overlay to our LCAP goals. Next slide, please. Here's a quick overview, a snapshot of our LCAP goals. Next slide, please. These are my departmental goals, so just a quick and friendly reminder for the upcoming school year. We want to ensure that our strategic priorities align with the content of our LCAP. Looking at the first and last bullets, these are of special priority. Our educational partners expect systemic change, which is identified in the last bullet. Tonight, I'd like to present some of the recommendations from our other educational partners. We presented PAC, and we'll go back and just do a quick snapshot. The recommendations from PAC were presented at our last board meeting, but I'd just like to uplift a few. So goals are written in smart language, metrics align to the goals, and that we develop a system of progress monitoring. Next slides, please. Sorry, Danielle. Yep, go one more. One more. Our AAAB previously presented their recommendations, but there are a couple that I'd like to uplift. So one of the things that they want to make sure happens is that we market our college experiences to our Black students, invite Black faculty to come to campuses, engage in student interest, so that students see themselves reflected. Another recommendation is that we have effective instructional strategies that reach our African American students. Next slide, please, Danielle. We continue to provide anti-racist and anti-bias professional learning, that we recruit and retain African American staff. Next slide, Danielle. Then we have recommendations from our CAC. Our CAC is comprised of parents who have students with disabilities, like myself. And they also have several recommendations I'd like to uplift. One would be to improve college and career readiness for our students with disabilities. They also would like to ensure that our collaborative time, the increased time that we have for our teachers, that there's some kind of metric to measure the effectiveness of that collaboration time. Next slide, please. Looking to goal 4, they want to provide and continue for us to provide anti-bias professional learning, but they also want to include anti-ableism. And that's the acknowledgement that there are discriminatory practices against people with disabilities, particularly our students with disabilities. Action 5.5 is already in progress. Our CAC is meeting with our attendance and care team to go over communications with families with special needs. Next slide, please. And they want to make sure that there is increased engagement as we do work around our graduate profile. Next slide, please. Sessions with the Parent Information Exchange and our American Indian Committee, our American Indian Parent Committee, and our DLAC, they also had recommendations. So they want to make sure that we are implementing academic and behavior interventions, that we provide customer service in the front office. They said some schools there is great customer service and other schools, so they'd like to see not so much, so they'd like to see a uniform approach to that. Next slide, please. They'd also like for us to celebrate the diversity within our schools and to set high expectations for all students. And our committees in particular mention skin color and making sure high expectations are set for students, no matter their race or cultural background or ethnicity. Next slide, please. And so one of the things that they want to do is increase that communication and make sure that that communication is two-way. Next slide, please. We also had our students. There were engagement sessions with our students. They really focused a lot on the need for mental health and social and emotional wellness, and making sure that our staff was trained in order to support them or at least provide empathy. Echoing what they said when they stood before us at our last board meeting, they want to make sure that IEPs and 504 plans are implemented. Next slide, please. One of the things that they also said was really honing in on restorative practices as opposed to practices that are punitive, and ensuring that rules and consequences are implemented fairly. Next slide, please. I wanted to make sure I talk with our principals about one of our goals on LCAP, and that's around post-secondary opportunities. So I had the wonderful opportunity to talk to elementary school through high school principals. And they highlighted a couple of things when it comes to goal one of our LCAP. One, they'd like to see vertical alignment in their meetings so that they can start talking about some of the needs of students as they reach graduation. We know that graduation requirements and that thinking about graduation and entering CTE programs, that has to happen at the elementary school level and not wait for the high school level. So they were excited to talk about that. They also talked about highlighting some of the, together with that vertical alignment, highlighting some of the prerequisite skills needed for successful completion of those graduation requirements and CTE credentials and certifications. Next slide, please. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment on this topic?
We do not.
Okay, board comment. To my colleagues, please hop in the queue. All right, Member Jean.
Thank you for going so quickly through so many slides with lots of words. I really just applaud your speed. And I wanted to, I've processed a lot the conversation we got to have, and your heart and your vision and your recognition of there's a lot of good work happening and a lot of wheels spinning, but aligning that work so we can all come together is going to be so key as we go into our 3-year review. And I just want to say I really look forward to working with you and your team and our LCAP team to ensure that we're building solid relationships, working with our community, getting onto our school campuses with student voice, uplifting our educator voices, and making sure that our LCAP truly represents what we know all of our students need. So I just wanted to say I appreciate your heart and your vision, and I look forward to working with you on that next year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. Any other board members? None? Okay. Great work.
Thank you.
Great work. And you
Thank
came
you.
in, you hit the ground running, you built trust, and you expanded what was previously done. I would like to say you enhanced and advanced the work.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate you being in the space with us today.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
So we have
Excuse me, President Rhodes, one second. Also, our dependent charters need to be, their LCAPs approved, as well as our California indicators. You had all of that in your packet.
Yeah.
Just a reminder. Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
Thank you. All right, so this is an action item. We'll do a roll call vote. A student. Was there? Board member is not here.
You remember.
I remember. Did you see that? She's not here though. Superintendent?
President Rhodes, we need a motion.
I motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, I'm excited about this, so I apologize. Go ahead and go.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Aye.
Member Phillips? Member Kayada?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with all members who are in attendance. Thank you once again. And we're going to go to item 11.2.
Thank you, President Rhodes. And for this item, the resolution to commit funds, I'd like to introduce Jesse Castillo, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Hello, Mr. Castillo.
Thank you, Rose. Good evening. Good evening, President Rose, members of the board, Superintendent Aguilar. See, this presentation is on the resolution to commit funds. Thank you. So this is just a highlight of our acronyms that you'll see throughout the presentation. Next slide, please. First, we'll start with our overview and some background information on committed funds. We'll then move on to the 23-24 proposed commitments, followed by a summary, questions, and approval of resolution number 3332. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the Public School System Stabilization Account. Essentially, this is the state's rainy day fund. It represents basically providing stability to school districts during fiscally challenging periods. However, there is language along with this that once this reaches a certain funding level, it does trigger a local 10% cap for school districts and is on their combined assigned and unassigned reserves. This was first triggered in 22-23 and continues on into our 23-24 budget. For our 23-24 budget, we do project about $124.2 million in total assigned and unassigned fund balance and calculate our cap at $69.6 million. Next slide, please. This slide takes a closer look at the budget reserve cap calculation and our proposed commitments. The top table represents how the cap is calculated. Essentially, it takes our 23-24 projected expenditures, less our transfers in and out, and then takes 10% of that figure. So that's how we arrive at the $69.6 million. The second table represents our proposed budget commitments. In total, it's $85.8 million for unsettled labor negotiations, projected multi-year cost. You may note that this number differs from what was projected, or excuse me, what was shared during the public hearing presentation a few weeks ago, which is about $41 million. The reason being that the $41 million represented the cost for the 23-24 budget year. However, since the reserves are projected to serve as the primary funding source for our ongoing labor negotiations costs, the $85.8 million figure represents the full multi-year cost looking at the entire budget. So that's why this committed fund amount was updated for the 23-24 year. In total, the $85.8 million does reduce assigned and unassigned fund balance to $38.4 million, which is below the cap of $69.6 million and makes us in compliance with that 10% reserve cap requirement. Next slide, please. In summary, the board does retain authority to change the purposes and/or amounts throughout the 23 fiscal year, but they do have to be changed before the close of the 23-24 fiscal year in September 2024, or by that point in time. The district will continue to monitor and provide updates during each of our reporting periods. Also a reminder that the state budget is not yet final, and so once we do have the enacted budget, there could be changes in assumptions, which could result in revisions to the 10% reserve cap calculation. Next slide. And with that, any questions?
Thank you so much. First, we'll go to public comment. Do we have public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, board comment or questions? If you have any, please hop in the queue. Okay. Emerging.
Thank you for that very thorough and clear and succinct explanation, and I just appreciate the work that you're doing on all of this.
Thank you, Member Jean.
Thanks.
I concur.
Thank you.
So, seeing that there's none, I will make a motion to move forward. Do I have a second? Second. Superintendent.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada?
Aye.
Member Phillips?
Aye.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with all members who are present. Now we're going to 11.3. You're back.
Right.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening again.
I look down, look up. You're still there.
Yeah. This presentation is on the adopt proposed 23-24 budget. Next slide, please. This table is just a highlight of the acronyms that you see throughout many of our financial reporting presentations. Next slide. Starting off, we'll be going through our multi-year projection summary, followed by changes since public hearing, and then followed by summary and adopt proposed budget. This slide is a table of our 23-24 multi-year projections. There are no changes on this table with the exception of the components of ending fund balance. As I shared in the previous presentation, there was an update to the committed fund balance amount that is also included within the components of ending fund balance figure, which is in the second row from the bottom of this table. And then we also added a footnote at the bottom just to explain the difference between our ending fund balance figure of $203.6 million and the unassigned unappropriated amount of $22.2 million and what that is net of. Next slide, please. This slide takes a closer look at the components of ending fund balance and just kind of reiterates that change since the last presentation during the public hearing, which is that updated unsettled labor negotiations amount of $85.8 million. Again, that represents the multi-year estimated cost of a 6% proposed salary increase, as well as increased subrates and class size adjustments. In total, $203.6 million combined fund balance, of which $79.1 million is restricted and $124.5 million on our unrestricted side. Next slide, please. In summary, the district is proposed to satisfy the 2% reserve for economic uncertainty in each of the 3 projection years. We also are projecting an unrestricted increase of $27.7 million in 23-24, $10.4 million in 24-25, and $1.6 million increase in 25-26. Next slide. And with that, any questions?
Do we have any public comment on the topic?
We do not.
Okay. Do we have any board comment? All right. Seeing none. You just do the best we have. You the best we have. Member G.
Thank you. Again, wow, that's like the fastest financial presentation we've had yet. I really appreciate that. My question has more to do with what is our status with SCOE overseeing us? Like, I know we were like in our 2 or 3 year, and I'm just wondering where are we at and do we have an update on, are we free of their oversight yet?
Well, we haven't received our letter yet. Following budget adoption, what happens is that then SCOE will review our budget and confirm whether or not, you know, our numbers are well represented or accurate, and then they'll comment and provide either the either it's an approved budget with no conditions, or it can be a conditionally approved budget like we've seen in prior years, which and the third one is a unapproved budget. We doubt that we will get an unapproved budget, so that remains to be seen. But our numbers are looking pretty good, and I can't speak on their behalf. I don't know, Superintendent, if you may have additional comments on that. So that's the process.
So that's the normal process.
Correct.
Aren't we in some kind of specialty? Sorry, I don't have the language in my brain right now.
Well,
Not anymore?
Not necessarily. I would say our last budget was conditionally approved.
Okay.
So that has not been lifted technically until we get that revised letter.
Okay.
But I could certainly check in with them and ask them if there's
No, I was
something
just curious if we had any update. Okay.
And Member Jean, what I would say is that the process that we are doing right now is the same process that all districts do, and that SCOE and SCOE's review will be the same process. They don't have a different process by virtue of our situation. It'll be the same process, and as Ms. Ramos says, we will have to wait for that letter and see what their determination is.
Thank you so much, again, for all your hard work. I know it's been a lot this year.
Thank you.
And I concur. So going to motion to approve. We have a motion. We have a second. Superintendent.
Yes. Member Jean.
Aye.
Member Kayada.
Aye.
Member Phillips. Aye. Member Rhodes.
Aye.
Member Singh.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with all members who are present. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, before, wait, actually, Rose, could you come back up really quick? I forgot one thing. I apologize. So, when we were talking about the budget and the work that you've done, we just wanted to say thank you, because it's It's your last meeting, so I'm going to turn over the floor to Superintendent because we have something for you.
Thank you so much, President Rhodes and board members, and to our entire community. Tonight, I'd like to take a moment to thank and congratulate both our Chief Business Officer, Rose Ramos, and also ask our Chief Information Officer, Bob Lyons, to join her, who both have been instrumental in our leadership team over the last few years. Both Ms. Ramos and Mr. Lyons have announced their plans to retire at the end of this school year, as you know. I just want to make a few comments. Ms. Ramos previously served in our district, actually, from 2000 to 2007 as our Director of Accounting. So coming back was really something that we looked forward to, and we welcomed her back to the Sac City family when she came in 2019, which, as you know, was a very difficult time for our district at that time. Her work is more than just numbers, of course. On spreadsheets, her department has managed many, many transformative projects during her tenure and her leadership, and they're visible to all of us. The opening of the central kitchen, all of the construction work that's happening at Hiram Johnson, the oversight of our campus rebuilds, implementing our award-winning facilities master plan equity index, just to name a few. I remember when I asked Ms. Ramos if she would be able to oversee not just our business department, but also our facilities, maintenance and operations. And she said absolutely that she was willing to take on that additional role. As you may remember, for those of you who have been here for some time, it was a separate role. And I just really wanted to acknowledge that she was willing to do that. I'm also, of course, saddened, but also excited about hearing the retirement days of Chief Lyons, Dr. Lyons, who has a lot of travel ahead, as he's described. He came to us not long after the pandemic started, and we absolutely benefited from his high level of expertise during our time of virtual learning, distance learning. He actually extended his date of retirement as far as he could, and we thank him for that. And just appreciate really his wife's forbearance, and know that they will spend a lot of time. He just had her retirement party a few days ago, and so I appreciate that he's been with us. These past few years, I've heard so many news reports of other school districts tragically experiencing network security issues, and thus far that has not hit our school district. And he is still working very hard to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I know it's something that produces a lot of anxiety for Chief Lyons and for all of us, and has just been instrumental in leading a technology team that I know appreciates his work very much. So I wanted to just take a moment on behalf of our entire team, everyone in this room, just to acknowledge the amazing work and how much we appreciate that you have served our students and our families and our community with the level of commitment that you've done over the past few years. So just want to say thank you to both of you. And we do want to present to you a very special memento that we hope you will keep for many, many years.
Can I take a picture?
Congratulations.
I don't know, you know, from up here, I look like a fake.
I've been trying to figure out what that
The
is.
webmaster. I like the pun. Excellent.
We're just gonna wait.
Oh, people in the back.
Is it red? Can I just see the apple?
It's red.
Yes, it is red apple. He
No,
was
no,
wondering
I
if
don't
it was
want
going to
it.
be green.
I can't retire yet. I'll get in trouble when I get home.
Definitely.
Having students? Two students? Yeah, I know.
It's good, man. Good, solid fill up.
Is it a heavy apple?
It's the closest I've ever gotten to the front.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations again. So where are you headed first? Yeah.
That shit happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I know.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, next, you're already here. All right, so we're gonna 11.4 approve renaming of Peter Brunette Elementary School, Kit Carson, and Sutter Middle School.
Good evening, Board President, board members, Superintendent. I'm Nathaniel Browning. We were not prepared to be this early, so a colleague of mine, Ide Borla, maybe
Wait, you're welcome.
Yeah. A colleague of mine from RSS Consulting, Ide Borla, might be walking in here momentarily. Janine Gaines and Emily Mizo Kayami will probably not be able to make it for this presentation. I think I'm hitting the right button. Okay, go ahead and bring it all up. All right, so as we all know, here is the district's core value and guiding principle. This is really our guiding principle here in facilities. We use these as our foundation for everything that we're doing, including this report. Again, you saw this 2 weeks ago, but this is a really powerful statement and exactly kind of the driver of why we are here today. Additionally, you saw these three names presented 2 weeks ago. These three names went through a rigorous process that we heard about at the last board meeting, where the committee deliberated and came to decisions on these three specific names. After each of the meetings for each of the sites, the committee came back together and confirmed these recommendations being brought before the board. And so next steps. After tonight's board action, we hope to officially announce the name changes, work to record the new official name change officially, and immediately start identifying site needs that can happen through routine maintenance right away. Also starting conversations about providing the additional supports as we start back into school next fall around providing trainings for students, staff, and community members in order to help support and the name changes for all three of these sites. We'll also be working to develop larger scopes of work for each of these sites that will be carried on, likely some of them next summer as well. And with that, I want to say thank you to the board on behalf of the committee.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this topic?
We do not.
Okay. Board comment on the topic. We have Member Jean. No. Oh, okay. Member Singh.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathaniel. I just want to reiterate my excitement for the renaming. I was actually at the Carson High School graduation, and if I recall my own speech, I remember using the word Moja in the speech, and just kind of giving an ode to the fact that that's where we're headed. And I just really appreciate that this went through a community process, that this went through a process that was deliberate, and I'm really excited about us continuing to do this work because these are not the only sites, these are not the only schools. We have a lot of work to do. Like I said last time, I'm not going to repeat my speech, but just as I said, I'm excited, and I'm excited to work with our community and just get direction and collaborate with you all on how to have those conversations because there are going to be folks who are not ready for that change. And just to have those discussions, if we need to, that I can be supportive as a board member, especially for the 2 schools that are in my area. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Singh. Okay, we have no other people in the queue. So I would like to say thank you to the board, to the committee, to you, Nathaniel. We are, as a district, continuing to change the arc or bend the arc of our district and education to a more equitable and just environment for everyone who we service. So I appreciate the work that you're doing here, and I'm ready to vote. Do we have a motion? Mo, second. Superintendent, roll call.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada? We do, okay. Member Phillips? Aye. Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with all members who are present. Great. All right, if we're gonna round of applause. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. All right. So 11.5. Hello.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. We have everyone? Okay. Good evening again. I'm here to introduce our team to give you an update on our early literacy support block grant. This evening we have Dr. Shannon Pella here to introduce our team and all of the work. I do want to say just up front, as you're listening to this presentation and knowing how deep you are in the budget development process and considering those strategic investments, there are lots of implications in this work around professional learning and structured literacy. You've asked to hear some bright spots in our district, and these are 4 of them. And we are, through the Early Literacy Support Block Grant, investing a lot of resources into both professional learning and and structured literacy. So please consider that as you're listening to our presentation this evening. Thank you.
No. All right, good evening. This early literacy support block grant falls squarely into our values as it provides some funding to support students to learn and grow and reach their greatness, particularly in the area of foundational literacy skills. Tonight we have Nathan McGill, our principal from Ethel I. Baker Elementary School, that you'll hear from in a couple of minutes. And we also have Carrie LaSalle, who I will introduce shortly, who has been very supportive of our 4 ELSB sites. So this block grant is the result of a bill of Senate Bill 98, which was passed in 2021, which appropriated $50 million to the 75 schools across California whose 3rd grade students scored at a level 1 on the CASP. So we have 4 of our schools who were identified as being in that range. The goals of the grant are to support the development of high-quality Tier 1 instruction, specifically in the area of foundational literacy skills, which basically suggest a structured literacy approach. So a structured literacy approach is based on the science of reading, which is accumulated body of research over decades of international research on how people learn to read and what the best approaches are for teaching reading. So we provided this visual metaphor just to show you all of the various aspects of a structured literacy approach. And then another slide to just give you a little bit more information about what we mean when we talk about structured literacy, that it's systematic and cumulative, explicit, it's diagnostic, which means it relies on ongoing assessment, and it involves universally designed teaching strategies. The grant for our 4 schools was just over $3 million, and between 21 and 22, you can see the figures here, the amounts that were spent. And this past year, which was 22-23, was year 2 of implementation. You can also see the figures spent. And then the remaining balance for 23-24 is also shown here as well. I will, as we go through the presentation, we'll talk about the types of things that the sites have spent the money doing. But these are the 4 categories of allowable expenses for the grant. So anything that principals decide with their teams at their sites and our support that they want to spend the grant to do have to fall into one or more of these categories. So in the bold are the categories, and then the types of things that the 4 sites did in each of the categories are listed below. Most of them have to do with staffing libraries, staffing sites with supports, having family nights, and teacher professional learning. So year 2 implementation, like Erin said, there are many, many bright spots. And we will begin with talking to you about how our teams here at Central Office, primarily our ELA training specialists, supported the sites from the year 1 through year 2, and will continue through 23-24 when the grant ends, to administer the DIBELS assessment, which is a universal literacy screener, to check in with principals and support principals to determine what types of things that they should use and budget their money to do. All 4 of the schools were involved in SIPS training, which is a phonics and systematic instruction or intervention program for teaching foundational literacy skills. And then additionally, we supported our sites when they attended professional learning through SCOE so that we could partner, we could be there as thought partners in a continued growing network of learners. I'm going to just go over some of the bright spots from AM-WIN. I don't think that I mentioned this earlier, so you're probably wondering what the 4 schools are. It just occurred to me. AM-WIN, John Still, Ethel I. Baker, and John Sloat. So I'll start with AM-WIN. Their goals listed here were drawn out from their initial action plan, which they wrote early on and when the grant was first funded in 2021. You can see that they're mostly around professional learning and developing a culture of data analysis and database problem solving. And then the actions taken here have mostly also to do with teacher collaboration, using data to inform instruction, and engaging in professional learning. The bright spots. So as you can see here, I certainly am not going to read through this slide for you. There's a lot of data listed here, but what I think this shows is a general theme of using very specific data at a granular level to inform explicit structured literacy instruction. And, you know, the teachers really weren't able, no teacher, in my view, is able to develop responsive literacy instruction without this level of data that's very specific to students' needs. And so developing a culture of assessment culture at the site has been very, very positive for AM-WIN, and you can see that there has been growth over the years. So for year 3, which is the upcoming year, and again, it's our last year of the grant, AM-WIN has plans to continue what they're doing, to continue to learn through other organizations that they're inviting and using the funding to bring to their sites, as well as to continue using assessments and building their capacity to use structured literacy approaches. So I'm going to introduce you to our next presenter, who has worked very, very closely with John Sloat. She's worked very closely with all of the ELSB sites. She is a dedicated coach, and her name is Carrie LaSalle.
This one, oh, here. Yep. Board members and Superintendent Aguilar, it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of 2 of the school sites that have received the ELSB grant. With John Sloat, they developed these action plans as a leadership team, a literacy team. The actions that they took this year revolved implementing SIPs, opening their school library and providing expanded access for students and families, which is before school and after school as well. They've used assessed student progress, as well as building the teacher leadership capacity, which was one of the more exciting pieces that came out of the grant that we found. The successes. It is exciting data to look at. Their students came in, and in September, 28% of the students tested out of SIPs, meaning they were at grade level and did not need intervention. By June, when we retested all of the students in grades K through 3, 41% of the students tested out of SIPs, but the students that did not test out of needing the intervention had made growth. They had grown in the level of SIPs that they were going to be engaged in. It was exciting. The teachers were excited to look at this data and felt empowered by it. All of those successes helped build an excitement about reading. They have a fully staffed library that built an excitement about reading, as well as they were able to purchase culturally relevant and socially emotional learning texts that helped the students see themselves in their library, see themselves in reading. Another piece was allowing parents to explore the library. The principal tries to utilize the library for adult meeting spaces on campus whenever possible, because she wants to draw the families into developing this culture of reading, not just at school, but at home as well. This also has come out of the investment of the grant. A collaboration with educational partners. The primary team that engaged in this work, the site literacy team, they're excited to continue the work. A recent conversation we had was they had to look at where they came this year on their journey and what they're going to do next year. There were exciting conversations like, I can teach comprehension fully in 3rd grade because my students can read. That is an exciting conversation to have when it hasn't been the norm. So they're going to continue collaborating with their educational partners, the district training specialists, and SCOE, who is helping support the grant. Their next steps are going to continue and grow their implementation of common assessments and data analysis. They're going to continue to grow the culture of literacy by trying to bring the families in even more. They have a goal for 3 literacy-based community events for next year, as well as after seeing the love of the culturally relevant texts that were in the library, they're going to take some of the carryover money that could not be spent on subs or staff salaries due to COVID. They're going to take that carryover money and purchase culturally relevant classroom libraries. So they don't have to go to the library to see these texts. They can see them in their classroom and have more free access to them. They are also going to continue to grow their professional development opportunities by having academic conferences once a trimester where they're going to look at this data, as well as have a portion of the day spent on a little professional development and learning. They're also going to begin digging into culturally relevant protocols to guide some of the discussions and analysis of student scores. John Sloat was exciting, and John Still is just as exciting. So I'm here on behalf of John Still as well. And their action plan goals that they created as a site literacy team, the teachers and the principal, can be found there. The actions they've taken this year, they provide 3 data analysis meetings to look at the data from DIBELS. They've taken on adding Heggerty, which is a foundational phonemic awareness curriculum. So the students that aren't ready for SIPs get Heggerty. There's small group instruction based on reading level, and they have also created a new library that has helped build that culture of literacy. Their successes, DIBELS scores have increased across the board. There's a consistency in the primary grades of having data as guiding instruction. It's not just I feel, it is I know based on data. And they make decisions on how their SIPS groups will operate, on the instruction they will give to their whole class based on this data. There is also an excitement about reading. And this is some of the more exciting piece to me. Students are excited to spend time in the library, as well as reading books in their classroom. At John Still and John Sloat, I'm very confident in saying that was not the case before this grant and the investment that this grant provided the site. Their next steps, John Still feels they've found a rhythm that works for them, but they want to continue by refining it. So they're going to continue with the assessments and data analysis, continue with the team collaboration, and continue to develop and grow that culture of literacy by also investing in classroom libraries that have diverse authors and diverse characters. They want their students to see themselves in these books, as well as develop a love of reading throughout the school using reading goals and challenges to help drive that motivation. Thank you. It has been my pleasure to represent these two wonderful sites. I want to now turn the mic over to Ethel I. Baker and their principal, Nate McGill.
Good evening, board and superintendent. It looks like I have 55 seconds left, so I'll make this brief, I assume. Just like the team had said, so we have also implemented structured literacy program that the ELSB grant is for K through 3, but we actually have it for an entire school. If I'm going to hit bigger picture pieces to it, it's highly individualized. Our school is down the street, so we have populations high in newcomer folks, varying from our stellar student Noah, who was an Islander a few weeks ago, to folks who are coming from Central and South America. They come in not knowing letter names and sounds, and so we might have a 10-year-old coming in not knowing any English. What's important about this grant is that it gives them a place for 45 minutes a day to learn English. We know that being able to read is the great equalizer. It's a huge equity piece, and so should I just stop or just keep going?
You
Okay,
continue.
finish the sentence. So without being able to offer them something that's individualized, it's really not fulfilling the mission of equity. So we're able to do that K-6, and we're seeing huge advancements for not just our newcomer population, but really the school as a whole. In seeds in K1 and 2, we have students who come from potentially households where literacy is not like it is in other neighborhoods, because we don't have parents who go to college and are highly literate. We have folks who are working hard and may not speak the language. So, we press on that equity equalizer. But kind of the final piece that I'll say before I take up more of your time is that it's really trauma informed in nature, because what we see is that the biggest kind of trigger for students as it relates to being frustrated in class is not knowing what's going on, not knowing, what you're reading, what your teacher's asking of you. So to be able to teach our students how to read and then understand the curriculum, it's really improved school climate in a way that we can feel, and that they can feel, and our metrics support that. And so, those are the two kind of biggest pieces. We are doing daily individualized reading instruction, K-6, and so I think if we can staff a librarian, that would be great. We've purchased $150,000 in these beautiful, culturally competent books that have great representation of our community, and we want kids and families in there as well. So far it's been a huge success, and our traditional standard metrics are beginning to move. But if I would want the board to know anything about it, it would be that it is an equity equalizer, and it's highly trauma informed. I think school sites that implement this level of kind of like individualized phonics instruction will see an improvement in kind of climate issues as well. So hopefully that makes sense to you all.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you to everyone. I just want to bring us back to where we began, which is that work like this, results like this for our students do require an investment in professional learning and structured literacy. So as you are continuing to consider how to invest our resources, I just wanted to bring you back to these items that are in those strategic investments around our anti-bias, trauma-responsive practices, structured literacy, professional learning, and those expanded instructional supports. And with that, we will wrap it up and hand it over to you all for questions and discussion.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment on this topic?
We do not.
Okay, board comment on the topic. We have Member Phillips.
That was refreshing. And it's wonderful. Y'all don't even have to get up. It was wonderful just to actually see data that shows increases. And also with Baker, the one-on-one means everything. And for the little child who read the dictionary because we didn't have a lot of supports at school, I appreciate that this is the ability for us to open the world up to these children. And hopefully sometime in the future, we can be looking into parent literacy as well. So fantastic. Thank you.
Wonderful. Member Jean.
Thank you. Again, I'm kind of echoing, it's wonderful to look at the data and the specificity and to see all the good work and the results of it all. The one page that made my brain just go question mark was page 14, slide 14 on the AM WIN year 3 implementation. I want to echo that with the other schools, I was really excited by the next steps and really excited by the work that you're doing. But here I looked at a list that was putting a lot on teachers and was just, I don't know, something in my brain went, So could you speak a little bit more about the collaboration that we're doing or the supports that we're offering, perhaps ways that we're doing release time and addition? Because it feels like we're going to train teachers, we're going to address teacher issues, we're going to train and it's like, okay, what else are we doing? So if you could just speak a little bit more to that.
So I'm going to ask Principal McGill to give a little bit more detail because he's got some examples that I think that would be helpful.
I can't speak for the WIN slide, but I can talk a little bit about how it does add cohesiveness. So if you could imagine a classroom where you have 24 students and maybe 6 or 7 different literacy levels, but you are being expected to teach all of those students to read in 181 school days, that task is really daunting. And so I think the real benefit of having structured literacy as it is, at least for these schools, is that, and maybe they're on their way, I would assume they would because of the good work that they do. The minute you kind of get that training, which is really, it's pretty basic, if we're being honest, then your job as a classroom teacher gets easier because you have 24 students for 45 minutes a day who are basically at the same skill level, right? It's not kind of a measure of anything related to intelligence. It's just how many foundational reading skills you have. And so when that happens, a teacher's job becomes much easier. And that's across the board. If I have, if you structure it correctly, which I'm sure the team would make those recommendations, in your lowest skilled group, your highest newcomer population, that's a smaller group. It's really intensive. At Baker, and I'm sure at WIN as well, we might have 2 or 3 classes in our grade level bands that are reading above grade level, and they can do some higher level thinking work. I think the initial lift is for teachers. But the lift is not super big, and also teachers have so many of these skills already. It's simply getting acquainted with it, and then it makes it a lot easier, is what I would say, and it really lends itself to collaboration because if you have students in your homeroom, but they're in my WIN class or SIPS class, we're talking about how they're doing.
So we're talking about looking at how we collaborate, how we differentiate, how we use data to make sure each kid's getting what they need at the right time and space to ideally get them all to the grade level and get to that best space.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it makes it so that if you and I share a kid, that student might not be normally going to you, but yes, are you seeing the same things in your homeroom? And so that's been a piece of it. So even our CT time, so the way it's structured, we are in, so imagine all 1st and 2nd grade teachers exchange, all 3rd and 4th grade teachers exchange, and all 5th and 6th grade teachers exchange. So that's a lot of variability. And then once a month, all of those teacher teams are getting together to talk about how the students are doing. This particular curriculum, SIPS, has regular assessment intervals, so every 10 lessons or so. So there's always assessment going on, and then we ask that we're making real-time decisions about kids. So the groups are fluid, and I think that's the same for all the sites.
Great,
Does that
thank
make-
you so
does
much.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I follow up just really quick? I just wanted to also add that a lot of the professional learning that we've done this year as a curriculum and instruction and multilingual literacy department has been focused on teacher clarity. So your question really goes to that because we've been focused a lot on John Hattie's work and how teacher clarity is such an important research and evidence-based component of high-quality Tier 1 instruction. And so I think I agree with you that there's so many other things that need to happen, but the focus on what teachers can do in terms of improving their pedagogy and their clarity of expectations and what they're teaching is really kind of at the heart of what not only AM-WIN is doing, but all the 4 sites and Nate's examples as well.
Well, and the research has definitely proven that best first instruction and universal design for learning coming, effectively is really what helps kids learn. So it's all important too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other board comment? Okay, I would like to just comment. I visited John Still and their library during, we were doing reading aloud to students, and the library is magnificent, and the selection of books, and your librarian is fantabulous. So I just want to say that being able to see books that are culturally responsive into a highly diverse school and have access to those things readily is amazing. So thank you guys for that work, and we're seeing it in the data as well, and that's matters. So when you see it through the data, and then you also see it through the climate and culture of a school site, you see how those two things are aligning and really impacting communities. So thank you so much for the work you guys are doing. Okay, with that, I will motion to, no, there's no motion to that. I'm sorry.
President Rhodes,
I wanted a motion.
If I could just interject real quickly before our staff completely leave. I just want to express my appreciation to Assistant Superintendent Hansen for sharing this slide just as a reminder of our strategic priority areas, and really just encourage our board to take time and visit any of these school sites, in particular because Principal McGill is here. This idea of trauma responsive practices within an MTSS framework with structured literacy, staffing, and implementation, and how all of that comes together. I can assure you that if you were to visit any of these school sites and you stop by Ethel Baker, I know that Principal McGill would be excited to explain to you how all of these things come together. Yes, they sort of look separate and they look like they're distinct, but they all can come together, and we are seeing those 3 of 5 strategic priority areas come together in a way that is beneficial to our students and families as well. So I just want to say thank you to our team. Thank you, Mr. McGill, and perhaps you'll have board members visiting very soon.
If you would like us there. So, moving on to item 11.6 with Dr. McCarn.
Just can't see. Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board. I'm joined by Carla Joseph, who's one of our HR analysts that works really hard and does a great job in supporting our departments.
Nice to meet you, board members and Superintendent Aguilar.
And her first time. This is going to be awesome. Okay. So we wanted to come to you with a resolution similar to the one we came to you last year with. For TK, as we begin we begin and continue to work to staff our school sites, we need a little more flexibility. And so these resolutions, both last year and this year, help us do that. Here are some acronyms you might see during the presentation as we go through and talk about the various components. So We've done a couple of things since we've talked to you last. I think last year we talked about, hey, this is what we're going to do. So we're in a place where we've done some of these things. Partnerships with SCOE and University of Massachusetts Global, formerly Brandman University. We now have an approved teacher residency program in partnership with others in the area as well, but specifically for us. So we are excited about that and what that means for our current individuals, some of who are instructional aides, who will be working to support classrooms as they work to get their credentials. So that's a good thing. That's been approved and moving forward. The resolution that you approved last year was for this year, to give some flexibility for those who had been teaching in the classroom but weren't quite there with those 24 ECE units. That expired. So we're back to say, okay, we're not going to put an end date. We're just going to say that we have a need. This is a high need area for our TK programs, and we want to continue to be able to staff them not only with current folks, but to expand our pool of potential. So while the outreach is taking place, the pipeline pieces are as important for you to know that we have moved from planning to actually have. Okay, so some of the key points in here is that we are going to offer more flexibility. The resolution that you should have in front of you, which we'll go through, allows the district basically a couple of different options to help our teachers meet that recommendation. So we have hardworking individuals who 24 ECE units might not quite be there, but they have experience in teaching. So we want to be able to give some of that flexibility. When we look at completing one school year, for us, that means the employee has served at least 75% the number of regular school days. We would count that as one school year. So Carla's going to talk about some next steps, and then we'll talk about what's in the resolution.
If the resolution is approved, it will enable the TK transitional kindergarten teachers from the previous year to remain qualified under Resolution 3334. The purpose of this addition is to broaden the eligibility criteria and allow the district to have a wider range of qualified candidates who must meet the minimum qualifications for teaching transitional kindergarten. If passed, it will expand the pool of qualified candidates and assist us in filling any vacant positions, particularly if there are district teachers interested in teaching TK. We strongly recommend the approval of Resolution 3334.
So what the resolution says, in a number of whereases, is that by doing this, we will be able to, through two different potential paths, qualify teachers who aren't quite there to be able to meet the qualifications. We know we have a high need. We know that we understand that meeting 24 units takes a little bit of time as teachers continue to work towards that. And if a teacher serving in one of our transitional kindergarten classrooms has the equivalent of one school year comparable to the 24 ECE units, and we talked about that one school year being at least 75% of the time. So with this, we are asking for this additional flexibility to keep the current ones under last resolution and expand our pool. So they will have two ways to meet the Ed Code requirement. Happy to answer questions, and 20 seconds to spare.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this topic?
We do not.
Okay. Board comment on this topic? Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. Superintendent?
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada?
Aye.
Member Phillips?
Aye.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with all members who are present. Yeah, thank you so much, and good first time, yeah? Okay, going to item 12.0, communications, Superintendent.
President Rhodes, actually, we have one public comment on communications.
Oh, great, thank you.
It is Ide Barola.
Good evening, board members. We just wanted to quickly thank you on behalf of RSS Consulting for voting to approve the renaming initiative that was presented earlier. We believe that this very important decision will help the district to start repairing the historical and present harm experienced by Indigenous students and other marginalized populations. This decision will also help us avoid the egregious acts like the one shared by Mr. Kevin Brown at the last board meeting. His family came and talked about that, and so we're really thankful for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this very important decision. It was an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I yield my time to my partner, Emily?
Sure.
Hi, just real quick. It's been a privilege to be a member of the renaming committee and to see the board's passion and commitment to include the Native American voice in the process and begin a healing path forward. Thank you to each and every one of you for dismantling racism. Thank you for not upholding a legacy of oppression. Thank you for recognizing names as powerful symbols that can conjure up feelings of pride or shame. Thank you for listening, and thank you for making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Going to item 12.1, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rhodes. Very quickly, as I think you mentioned, this is our last board meeting of the year. And as we come to the end of the school year, I also want to report tonight on some new beginnings. As many of you were part of this, we held groundbreaking ceremonies for the new campus rebuilds at the sites of Edward Kimball and Cesar Chavez, as well as Nicholas Elementary. And we look forward to our third rebuild at Oak Ridge Elementary, which will be coming up in September, and having a ceremony that I'm sure board members will want to participate in. The groundbreaking events are a celebration of the Sac City Unified School District, and of course marks the culmination of years of strategic planning by our staff with our community, beginning with the passage of Measure H in March 2020. And I again want to thank the voters in our community for their continued support of Sac City Unified as we continue to equitably lift, inspire, and transform our entire community. At our last board meeting, of course, you remember that we did present our proposal for consideration to the board, and we'll be coming back with some action items to pursue a $538 million bond next year to continue this amazing work moving forward. I also want to just acknowledge our facility improvements are not just limited to these three rebuilds, of course. There's a lot more investments that are being made through Measure H. 25 of our sites are currently undergoing exterior and gym lighting upgrades to be more energy efficient. We've installed more campus shade structures throughout our district, including at Caroline Wenzel, New Joseph Bonheim, Tahoe Elementary, and Hollywood Park. The Hiram Johnson Football Stadium was our largest project completed this school year, and work is underway on the softball, baseball, and golf projects there as well. And I'm also excited to share that the new swimming pool at Luther Burbank High School has been filled and is being treated with chemicals as we speak, and will be ready for swimming by the end of the month. I also enjoy recognizing the accomplishments of our students, and this month we were notified by the Girl Scouts Heart of Central California that 6 of our students and recent graduates received the Gold Award, which is the Girl Scouts' highest honor. Congratulations to CK McClatchy students and graduates Arwen Austin, Brooke Kirshner, Galena Anderson, Zoe Morris, and Salome Gitauen, and also Mia Sherman from West Campus. And finally, I saw all of you board members. Thank you for attending. I had the honor of attending all 15 of our graduation ceremonies this month. I'd like to acknowledge that this year's graduating class had one of the most unique experiences in our history, of course, as the COVID pandemic started near the end of their freshman year in 2020. And as we all heard from student speakers, they all referenced those very difficult moments, but also celebrated that they were in space with one another. I wish all of our graduates happiness and success in their next journey. And of course, a special thank you to all of the teachers, our site administrators, staff who provided the support needed to help those graduates walk the stage. And I just want to just end by saying how much I appreciated and noted to all of our board members the uniqueness of every graduation ceremony. I'm really glad that we've not taken a position where everybody has to do the same type of graduation ceremony, and you really feel it when you're at the crest. And even at the crest, the graduation ceremonies are different, or whether we were at Sutter Health Park as well. Each of the graduations were very different, and I just want to say that we will continue to allow our sites to have their unique ceremonies take place, and I'm just grateful that we were able to all be on stage with our students. So thank you, President Rhodes.
Thank you, Superintendent. This is my part. Point two. I'll just say very briefly, and I'll keep it brief. Superintendent said a lot of what we have been doing and celebrating over the last month. I just want to say to all the families, all of the students, our community, congratulations. You completed the year, and in hardships, in struggles, in triumphant ways, and we appreciate that. And going into next year, we look forward to having an even better year. And so with that, once again, congratulations to the graduates. Congratulations to all that promoted. Congratulations to the parents. Now you guys have to figure out what you're going to do in the summertime with your children, in which I have 5 little ones at home, and they already are eating everything. And so with that being said, I just want to show my appreciation once again for a school year, completion of a school year with our wonderful community here at Sacramento Unified School District. Then I'll pitch it over to my colleagues. If you guys have anything to share, colleagues, hop in the queue. Beautiful. And we'll start first with Member Singh.
Thank you. Yes, a lot was covered, so I'm excited about all the projects. I just want to be specific about a couple of things. I know that over the summer we'll be taking care of painting and fixing up the Tahoe Elementary Library. It's a big deal. I'm really excited about that. And I also know that the play structure at Phoebe Hearst will be fixed by the time school opens, which is really great. And I also know that we are resurfacing our basketball courts, indoor basketball courts, which is really important too. So I just want to say I'm really excited about all the projects that are going to be happening over the summer, and just want to thank staff who will be working on those projects, because not everybody is actually off. Those folks will be working very hard. And otherwise, yes, congratulations to all the students, and it was an honor attending the 2 high school graduations that I did. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Singh. Member Jean.
Just have to say, I really enjoyed going to the graduations as well and hearing the students' passion and getting to fist bump everybody. It was pretty great. I also just wanted to thank Member Phillips and be excited about the governance training that we started last weekend, and the deep conversations that we're having. And I'm, having been 6 months on the board, which is a steep learning curve, and getting to know people and building relationships and getting to know Sac City. I'm really excited about our future and about the governance training we're doing and what that's going to empower us as a board to be more effective at, so that we can improve our student outcomes, because that's what it's all about. So I'm excited about that. And congrats on concluding the 22-23 school year. And let's look forward to the 23-24.
Yes. Do we have any other board members in the queue? If not, we will go to item 13.0, and it's an action item. We're going up. We have Member Phillips in the queue. I'll just put Member Phillips in the queue really quickly. Member Phillips.
I would like to pull an item from the consent agenda, specific 13.1R.
13. Let me pull this up real quick. Member Phillips. 13.1R.
Correct.
Okay. And then we have Member Kayada, and then after following Member Singh. Member Kayada.
I'd also like to pull from consent 13.1A and 13.1P. 13.1A, I am just pulling the special ed contracts. And 13.1P is a joint venture agreement.
13.1P, joint use, okay. Okay, and, okay, those are things. So right now we have motion to move 13.1A, 13.1P, and 13.1R, removing from the consent agenda to be discussed. Do we have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Do we have to do a roll call? I just want to make sure.
Are you voting to approve the remaining items
Yes.
on the consent? So
Yes.
then, yes, you need
Yes.
to, let's
Thank you.
just clarify the motion that it's to approve all items on
approve
consent
all items
except.
for 13.1A, 13.1R, 13.1P. Thank you so much. And we'll do a roll call vote because it was a first and second. Thank you for the clarification.
Excuse me. Member Jean.
Aye.
Member Kayada.
Aye.
Member Phillips.
Aye.
Member Rhodes.
Aye.
Member Singh.
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to go to item 13.1A first. Approval grants, entitlements, and other income agreements, ratification, other approval of bids, approval of declared surplus materials, equipment, change notice, and notice of completion. Member Kayada.
Thank you, President Rhodes. So I asked to pull this just with respect to the special education department contracts. We have a series of contracts for non-public schools and non-public agencies. For those following closely, the non-public schools are new to this agreement, but we did consider non-public agencies last time. My comments are limited to the non-public agency contracts that we discussed at our previous meeting. When we had that pulled last time and did not vote on it, we had asked for staff to work with labor to understand the impacts of any agreements that they have with us, the board and the district, in terms of contracting for services they could be providing, as well as, I believe I shared this with the rest of the board, but for myself in particular, a very significant concern that we are going to be entering into another school year, continuing to rely on contractors for providing work in the special ed department that really should be provided by staff. Not just because it's fiscally responsible, but also because then we have control over the services and we provide better services for our students. I do understand that in some cases, students do benefit from outside providers, but that should be the exception and not the rule. And I'm concerned that 2 weeks have gone by. The board did receive an update on progress made in this area, which my understanding is it was essentially a few meetings with labor. And I did take the opportunity to accept labor's invitation to attend one of those meetings. Did not say anything, of course, but it seemed, I would say, perfunctory. And I know we can't do anything really serious in 2 weeks, especially given our relationship with labor at the moment, but I think we need to do more. I'm pulling this for discussion. Ultimately, as a parent of a child in the special education department, I know we need these services. And I know that if we can't provide them in-house, we need to find someone who will provide them. But I am really, really concerned. It doesn't seem necessarily like our request from last meeting was taken very seriously, that we try to make significant progress in addressing this. That doesn't have to be a side letter necessarily. That would have been nice to try to see what we can do to address these staffing shortages. Ultimately, I think that this is something that, I'm going to have to vote to approve tonight, but I really don't like doing so because I want a significant reduction in this cost for non-public agencies because we will be having staff do this. Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kayada. Do we have any other comment from board members around this topic in particular? Feel free. Member Singh.
Don't know why I pressed request when he looked at me.
Member Singh.
I share the concerns. I also understand that from a legal perspective, I want to make sure that we are upholding our legal contracts. And part of those contracts on what was brought up to us by our labor partners was that we need to have consent and agreement on these contracts. And I know that we're not there. And I know that we're not going to be there today, nor were we going to reach that in 2 weeks. But we had to honor that discussion and conversation and try to have those discussions. So unless there's other comments, I would more on the lines of obviously supporting the needs of our students, but also wondering if we're able to amend something to say something along the lines that with the contingency that we would comply with the written consent agreements that are put in place by labor. If that is something that's helpful, that kind of pushes us to kind of engage and communicate and continue to work with our partners under that contingency, while also making sure that we're providing the necessary services to our students and not slowing the process down to get them the services that they need. So I'll put that out there as an amended yes, but just want to see if there's any conversation around that.
Okay, we have Member Phillips in the queue. Member Phillips.
So in very plain English, this is we would be approving an authorization to spend. We would not be spending the full amount. This is for the purpose of making sure that we're providing educational opportunities for our students. And because things take time, we obviously are really in need of putting ourselves not in jeopardy of losing any of the people that we are contracting in the event that we do need them. So I'm not 100% comfortable with putting any new language into that, just because it could muddy the waters. The goal is to honor the contract. However, if we are not able to have the staff available for our students, we do also owe that educational need that they have. And I don't feel like it's going to add to anything other than more discussions that might not be fruitful. And what I really don't want to see is I don't want to see the folks that we do have on this list of folks with the authorization to spend to back away, because we are putting restrictions on that may put in jeopardy the fact that we will need to use them at some point if we don't have our in-house staff working on that. So, if you have a better way to explain that to me, rather than, I just don't feel like adding extra language, because sometimes the push that we need may not get us anything as quickly as we think it might. Does that make sense?
Okay. So we have Member Jean in the queue.
The reality is students benefit best from folks who are employed publicly in the school district that know them and their schools and their communities. And that anytime we have to contract out, in essence, privatize the public work that we're charged with providing, it gets really sticky and problematic, particularly when our bargaining partners are contractually, they have the rights to that labor before we offer it to anybody else. And it feels like this situation is incredibly sticky, and we need to be better at how we have these conversations with our employees before we move to private contracting. And I would think that the language that Member Singh is providing acknowledges that where we are is where we are, and we need to make sure we get these contracts in place because students deserve those services. But we also need to acknowledge that we need to be better at attracting and retaining the educators in-house that will ultimately do a better job than these private contractors can. And I think that the language that you're proposing solves all of those, addresses all of those realities. So I'm in favor of your changed language.
Okay, and then we have Member Kayada.
So in listening to this conversation, I'd like to further clarify why I pulled this and why I had reservations last time. I think it's very important that even if we're in a situation where we're between a rock and a hard place, where we have to honor our contracts, but we also need to provide services, Sometimes we have to make decisions that we don't like, which I will do tonight. But also, the intention of my pulling it then and now is just to say that this is not something that should fall to the back burner. This is something that needs to remain a priority. And I would like to apologize. I used the word perfunctory before describing the meeting that I attended. And perfunctory, I use that word in the sense that it didn't seem like the district was in a position to make any real movement, but not that the staff members who attended that meeting and the SCTA reps who were there were not in a very good place. I think we have people in our district, in our special ed department at the top, who really do want to see changes made. And my point in saying is it's incumbent upon us as a board and me as a board member to say, I want to help you make those positive changes. I know that we have, I think it's pretty clear we can all recognize that our special education department needs a lot of work. And I think we have a team that wants to fix that. And I want to empower you trying to think of a better way to say it, but basically to say that the board is watching this, and I don't necessarily think we need language on this to overcomplicate it, because ultimately we need to get these contracts out the door. But if there is, some sort of understanding that the board would expect to hear back on progress, that we take this progress very seriously. And from me personally, we're in reopening negotiations. Generally, part of what's being discussed is special ed for SCTA contract. If that's something that can be potentially handled separately as a side letter, just to make sure we get this done. If we can start hiring sooner than later in this area, I think it'll make a world of difference for our kids, even if we don't have all the staff hired at the beginning of the school year.
So, Member Kayada, you pulled the item. What is your motion?
I pulled it merely for discussion because I thought we had to have this conversation. And I think it's important that staff know our positions on this, but also I want staff to know that we support their efforts to make improvements. And staff, I'm describing our teachers and our staff here in Cerna, who all want to improve this. So really just for discussion, but ultimately, I will, Member Singh did potentially have something in mind, but for me, I would just approve it. I just wanted to have the conversation first.
Okay, so you actually just wanted to move it for discussion, not for a certain motion or amendment.
Yes.
Okay. Member Singh, was that a motion that you said earlier?
Yes. Let's just go with the motion, if that was a motion. So you're okay if I move? Do you want to move, or do you want me to move with that motion with the amendment language?
Was it your motion or what he just said?
No, it's. I would have the amendment language in there.
Okay, so can you repeat that
Yes,
for?
I had to write this down. So I vote to move with the contingency that we comply with the labor language agreement that requires us to have written consent.
Okay, is there a second?
Just a point of clarification, and this is, you're voting on 13.1A.
Yes.
The amended language that you just spoke to was the non-public agency special education contracts.
Correct. Thank you so much. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. We will do a roll call vote.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada?
Aye.
Member Phillips?
No.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
And Member Singh?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We are going to go now to item 13.1P. Member Kayada.
Thank you. So I pulled this in a similar manner. I am excited to approve this. I think this, sorry, I lost the name of the organization, A Different Path. Really excited about, I don't know them personally, their work, but what I've read seems very good. The reason I pulled it is because I just had some questions about the nature of what type of agreement we're entering into, and generally kind of when we contract with nonprofits to provide community services, how it works. So I did ask the superintendent 3 questions about this earlier. Superintendent, if you wouldn't mind, can you, just so that, I don't think I'm the only one who should hear those answers.
Of course. And let me ask our Chief Business Officer, Rose Ramos, or Nathaniel, to provide the information to the board based on the inquiry.
Yeah, Member Kayada. So the questions you'd asked are, how are we generally using the space for closed school sites? Do we use it for district purposes like storage or other? Lease out to community groups? I'm looking for a general breakdown and estimate percentage of space utilization. What is our process for identifying users for unused space that do not have current district purpose for? Are we working for a community-based, are we working with community-based organizations like A Different Path? How do we decide to work with them? I'm assuming that we have many nonprofits and other groups that want to use these spaces. And lastly, how does the amount we charge these user groups differ from other organizations? So breaking that down a little bit, we have 6 previously closed school sites that do not have any kind of academic program in them at this time. They include CB Wire, which we're reopening this next fall as the temporary location for the Nicholas School site during construction. CP Huntington Elementary, which is a district file storage location. Florin Tech on Florin and 24th, which is a district equipment storage location. Maple Elementary, which has been leased by La Familia since 2015. Fruit Ridge Elementary, that has been leased since 2015 as well. And then lastly, Fremont Adult School, that's been leased by the city since 2013. During the previous school closures, we created a 7-Eleven committee in 2013, and the recommendation of that 7-Eleven committee was to provide some of these closed school sites for the purpose of providing nonprofit hubs. It was the direction at that time to have them lease the space at the same rate that we provide school sites to our independent charter partners for, and that's $188 per square foot. Typically, we do have interest from nonprofits wondering if there is other space for lease, and we typically connect them with La Familia or Fruit Ridge Community Collaborative. Specifically, I know Fruit Ridge Community Collaborative does have available space, and so working with them, and that's typically where we send them. A Different Path had an agreement with the district starting in 2015 as well. They were located at a portable at the Cap City School location. The reason why they were chosen was because of the services that they provided and how it fit with that student population there. Recently, last spring, we had to change the services and increase the services that we provided at Cap City, so we had to relocate A Different Path. We luckily had one other portable location that we could relocate them to, and that was one unused portable at the Fruit Ridge Community Collaborative site that was outside of the current agreement with that entity. And so they moved to that portable location and have been going through the civic permit process since until we can formalize this agreement. This joint venture and license agreement is very much identical to the one that we have for the Maple site and for the rest of the Fruit Ridge Community Collaborative site. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, it did. And it sounds like you wrote the response I read a couple hours ago. So thank you for your attention to this. I'm really excited that we're able to offer community services with our unused sites. I just wanted to, I wasn't paying attention to this when the last 7-Eleven committee did it. So I thought it was important we recognize this. Unless anyone else has anything, I would like to move this. And I really just pulled it so I could have that information available to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then that's a motion to move that item. Is there a second? Okay, there's motion and second. Superintendent, roll call, please.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada?
Aye.
Member Phillips? Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Aye.
Okay, Moving to item 13.1R, approve staff recommendation for expulsion number 25. Member Phillips, your motion is to not approve, or?
We're just going to put it up for a vote, but I just want to make a statement. That okay? All right. So in California, there are only 5 categories where a public school student must be expelled. We call them the Big Five. So pursuant to subsection 48915C in the Education Code, it states those specific reasons for expelling a student are possessing, selling, or furnishing a firearm, brandishing a knife at another person, unlawfully selling a controlled substance, committing or attempting to commit a sexual assault or committing a sexual battery, and possession of an explosive. So my statement to my community is there are reasons why we absolutely must vote to expel a student. In the event that a student does not meet the criteria, I do feel that as a district, there is more that we can do. So expulsion of a student, if they do not meet the Big Five, is something that I really am concerned about because I work in the community. I work with students who deal with, child welfare. And we have significant issues with family structures that bleed into our schools. And I don't believe that we are in the position to penalize students who do not violate these Big Fives, and that we really must do better. There has to be more we can do. Sending a student who might possibly have influences at a school that might not be too positive for them or a good place for them to be is not something that I agree with. So the Big Five is why we vote to expel. Otherwise, we can make a choice and make decisions as to whether or not we want to put that through. So I'm just putting this up for a vote.
Okay. We have a motion second for a vote. Superintendent, can you do a roll call?
We need a motion to approve.
Yeah, I thought she moved it. I seconded the motion to approve. Yeah, motion to approve. Yes. We have to vote on it.
The motion
Yeah.
to approve, and now the superintendent will take roll
Take a
call.
roll. Correct. Go ahead.
Thank you. Member Jean.
Aye.
Member Kayada.
Aye.
Member Phillips.
No.
Member Rhodes.
Aye.
Member Singh.
No.
Okay. Motion approved.
No, it does not approve. You have 3-2, and you need you need 4 votes to approve.
Apologies. Motion fails. So that is end of that, and we're going to 14 future board meetings. August 17th. We'll see you guys in August. September 7th. And then do we have a motion to adjourn? So second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. See you guys in the